I think I launched Pivot Sales because I kept seeing the same pattern in good growing businesses. Businesses that weren't broken, but they had good people, strong capability, decent customers, and real ambition. But as they grew, the commercial side became harder to manage. What often happened was the business had outgrown the way sales was being run. Founder was still too involved. The CRM wasn't giving proper visibility. Forecasting was inconsistent. Opportunities were moving differently depending on who owned them, and leadership teams were making important decisions without the level of commercial clarity they really needed. So for me, this created an opportunity which was clear. Most growing SMEs don't have a sales activity problem, they have this commercial structure problem. And I felt there was a better way to support them, not just through more theory, just not just sales training, not just putting another salesperson into the business and hoping that fixes it. Because in most cases, capability wasn't the issue. The issue was visibility, ownership, structure, and rhythm. I'd spent enough time inside commercial leadership roles to see that many businesses needed a more practical form of support. They needed someone who could help them see what was really happening, simplifying the moving parts, and build a commercial structure that made growth easier to manage. Launching Pivot Sales gave me the chance to do that in a more focused way. So rather than working inside one business, I could help more founders and leadership teams solve the same problem: how to grow in a way that feels more controlled, more predictable, and less dependent on a few key people. And I think the timing matters. A lot of SMEs have grown quickly over the last few years, but their commercial systems haven't always kept pace. And they've added people and tools and activity, but not always the structure to make those things work together. That's where Pivot Sales fits. It's about helping good businesses create greater visibility and control so they can make better decisions and grow in a way that's sustainable. I think at some point, yeah, I've got a huge breadth of experience across multiple industries, multiple businesses, multiple cultures, multiple territories and geographies. And bringing all that experience, 25 years of experience together really allows me to go into these businesses and help these struggling businesses that have the same issue. They weren't lacking ambition or capability, but they had good customers, good people, real opportunity. And their commercial structure hadn't kept pace with their growth. The founder was still too involved. Sales visibility was limited. Forecasting was uncertain. Systems weren't giving leadership the clear clarity. And so that convinced me there was a real need for a different kind of support. And I can draw on that experience that I've got from many years in business, not just talking to them about sales training or another salesperson, but proper commercial structure, visibility, ownership, and rhythm. That's why Pivot Sales exists, to help growing SMEs see what's really happening commercially, reduce that founder dependency, and create more predictable momentum. I've enjoyed it so far. It's really given me an energy and an enthusiasm to, really get stuck in, get out there and help people. I think the support's been fantastic. The reassurance has been fantastic. We're going out and doing something and building something here. And to know there's that framework and support behind me, but allowing me to do it and deliver it in my way, put my personality around the Pivot Sales engine, really allows me to go with the freedom that to deliver something that's mine, but knowing that there's a framework and a structure behind it that I can always refer back to give that clarity and structure when going out into the market. Absolutely. I mean, I could go out and do this myself, but it would take a lot more time and effort. There's probably some bits I would miss. There's questions that I've been able to bounce off people within the total sales team. And I wouldn't necessarily have had that if I'd have been on my own. So yeah, the total sales engine has really helped me create something with that kind of safety net, for want of a better description, something that's allowed me, to have that support behind me and give me the confidence to walk out into the market, knowing that I've got most things nailed down and most things are ready to go, with that little bit of flexibility to really put my own stamp on it. Well, I've got a plan and a vision, and I mean, being able to always go back to that structure, being able to go back to that roadmap will allow me, in times of sort of questioning or just uncertainty, kind of, well, where am I heading? What's my North Star? Where am I really trying to get this, to? So yeah, that framework and structure always gives me the backbone underpinning what it is I'm trying to achieve. And knowing that, if I need to ask a question, then I go back to what that plan is. So the next 12 months, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. There's going to be some uncertainty and there's going to be some real big wins as well along the way. And I think it's just knowing that that structure is there to underpin that journey. I think the AI underpinning it is exactly, where we need to be heading, right? It's a tool to be used, a tool to be leveraged. It shouldn't replace everything. And, there's still a human element here that's really fundamental to what we're doing here. But to bring some of that structure, to allow us to kind of underpin the decisions we're taking, the movement we're making forwards. That AI is really strong and really useful, but it shouldn't be the be all and end all of what we're doing. It's a complement, it's a tool, and it's allowing us to actually, accelerate some of the things that we're doing without taking away that human, real fundamental human part of what it is the sales engine is underpinned by. Oh, it's absolutely comprehensive. I think that's why I'm aligned with the total sales engine, moving forward. I think, you've got to have a foot in both camps with the AI and with the human element. You can't have one without the other, moving forwards. That's the way the world's going to work. AI can't replace those human interactions, but it can complement and it can enhance. And I think, those human bits are what unlocks the relationships and really builds the credibility. The AI helps to make sure that we're making the right calls and underpin those decisions we're making moving forward. So, I think a good balance of both is really healthy. I think, as you said, you've understood. I think, as you said, you've understood the individual behind the business, and tailored it to how I want to move my business forward. But what you also bring is that suite of information, that the reference guides, the detail and data needed to kind of take a few steps forwards. That as opposed to doing it on your own and starting everything from scratch. So I think, yeah, it's been a very personalized experience. We've been able to have, very genuine, open conversations about who I am and what I want and what I need to get out of this process, and tailored everything around that to fit with my expectations and help deliver the outcomes that I'm after. There's not one size that fits all, but the process you've got can be tailored to the individuals, wanting to take this journey with total sales. I
With
think, I think, I think the pace is matched to where I am at the moment. And I think that's been true of, anybody who's bought into the total sales engine model. You move as quick or as slowly as you want to. You don't want to add that pressure, unnecessarily. But there are good provocative discussions that have been had about how do we maybe inject a bit of pace? How do we maybe move this forwards in a different way? And that's good for kind of maybe challenging my way of thinking and how I want to execute. Not to say that what I want to do is right or wrong, but to say, hey, if you thought about these aspects, that could really accelerate the way that pivot sales is going to move forward. So for me, yeah, it's been great, and really, as you say, my business, my way.